nice to have a place where I can be me, and their daughter doesn't know me by any other name except the one I've chosen, and that has done a lot for my mental health.
Yeah. Just having a space where
Mm-hmm.
you can feel safe.
And just having people that understand.
Yeah.
I mean, my roommates know, because if I was going to move in with somebody and have my girl stuff, they need to know, because I didn't need them freaking out if for some reason they found out. So they were both actually very very accepting. I've known both of them for a few years. They were in my old platoon,
Yeah.
and one of them, when I explained why this couldn't get out, was really pissed off and upset with the Army for the way they would react if they knew,
Yeah.
which was fairly gratifying to find out. But I've known them so long in one role, I don't feel comfortable around them, even though they don't bat an eye when I come downstairs dressed. I just, having the two worlds clash is weird.
Yeah.
So having people that just know me through that and don't know me professionally was very comforting.
So being able to have a space
Mhm.
that's aside from your military life.
And even though they live on base, so I have to change before I leave their house. And it's still nice to go over there and be like, let my hair down as I put it on.
So how has has transition impacted your relationship with the people that you're close to in your unit?
Only two of them know right now, and like I said, they've both been very accepting of me. I don't see how this has anything to do with your job. You're one of the most technical, knowledgeable people we know. I don't see how that has anything to do with the other.
Yeah.
I've thought many, many times about telling other people, and after talking with the person that I went to and stayed with, and with the leader of Sparta, and discussing with them and formulating plans, decided that the best course is to go ahead and just finish out this enlistment without telling anybody, and then transition afterwards while in the Guard or the Reserve. Is you can get away with a lot more
Yeah.
in either of those.
And a little bit more of a civilian life outside.
The way one of them put it is, as long as you keep your hair in rags, you can grow boobs and no one's gonna say crap. So that's what the current plan is, and it's taking a lot of patience to not deviate from it and just say, look, this is what I'm dealing with. Here you go. Where do we go from here?
How long have you got left?
I have until April 2016.
So about 2 years. 2 years in bed. So you talked a little bit about going online to find information. What are some other places that you go to for information and support related to your gender identity?
That's pretty much been my one place. Since joining the group and having other people, I've been able to talk with other people face to face and meet with them, but 99% of it has been online.
Is that mostly just for safety, or?
Yeah, I'm pretty much a scaredy cat.
Hey.
I know it sounds strange for someone in the army that jumps out of airplanes.
It's only strange when it's unwarranted. You know what I'm saying? It's only paranoia if there's not something to really be afraid of.
So, I've never made an effort to find a local group. Just too scared.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, see, have you ever, you talked a little bit about going to see a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been other times, was that specifically for transition, or, okay, so have there been any other times that you sought treatment for transition-related stuff?
Back before I joined the military, before I was working at the game store, I had spent 2 years working as a physical education assistant for a elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend talked me into making use of they had like I think 12 visits a year you
Yeah.
could go for free, and making use of that. And so I went to one, and it turned out to be a graduate student who had no idea what I was talking about, and like, I don't even know how to begin to help you. So like,
Wow.
okay, well, thanks, bye. Then I've been to mental health with the Army. You have to go to them to go to recruiting school. They have to make sure you're not going to molest your recruits or something. I don't know. They have to do a mental eval. And when we got to my relationship with my wife, I have a hard time lying.
Yeah.
I can lie. It's pretty easy to tell when I'm doing it, and she could tell when I was trying to dance around something, and she just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it till it's like, all right. Remember back when DADT was around? How if you were gay, they would kick you out. What I'm going through is similar to that. And she's like, oh, and she was actually the people with behavioral health and mental health have, at least at my base, have fought against DADT, and they almost threw a party when it went away. And they are aware of trans service, so she's like, yeah, none of this is going to be anywhere. I want you to come back and see me, and just put life issue. And so I have seen her and my current psychiatrist, and that's pretty much it.
So when you told her, or even hinted at what was going on, what did you think was going to be her reaction?
I led with the DADT, and once I figured out how she was going to react, and then realized that she misunderstood me and thought I was gay,
Yeah.
I actually went out and explained exactly what was going on. And she was very accepting of it, and thought that the regulations were backwards and needed revision badly. So
What was it like hearing that from her?
it was a relief, because I'd been dreading that interview, and I don't know how I'm going to not tell her, because how do you talk to somebody who's a psychologist and not and hide something that's, because at the time it was still very raw edged.
Yeah.
And this was shortly after dealing with my wife, and so it was still very close to the surface.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Having her not like react like a witch hunt was
That's good.
a big relief, and knowing that the medical side wanted to help, just couldn't was good to know.
Yeah. So like you had support even though they were bound by regs. You at least had some support there. Were you able to go see her for regular appointments?
I would have been able to if I hadn't already been seeing someone off post.
Yeah.
I guess y'all don't like people talking to multiple people.
Yeah, there's some ethical guidelines around that.
So she's like, "Do you ever want to stop paying? Come see me. We'll talk."
So the psychiatrist that you see, what were you expecting when you went into that?
Going into it, I was afraid I was going to have to defend myself and convince them that I was transgender. And going into it, that was totally not the case. I was like, "This is what I'm dealing with," and she's like, "Okay, let's work through it."
What made you feel like you were going to have to defend yourself?
Just the way psychology had been, and reading stories of how you had to, prove it and then live before you could get hormones, and just the way that the psychiatrist, they had been dealing with it in like the 90s.
Yeah. So basically, like seeing online, like other people's experiences. And so when she did react in a supportive way, what was that like for you?
It threw me off balance because like I'm not sure how to deal with this now, but it was a huge relief too. Like I thank you for just believing that I know what the heck I'm talking about, and that I'm competent to know who I am and not need you to tell me who I am.
Yeah. Like you come in ready for a fight, and then so, I'm not really sure what to do now. I guess.
Well, she's been a big help in talking through things like realizing the reason why I have trouble facing people. I have failed. And it's like because of the relationship with my father, and when I was young, I couldn't tell you what I did. I guess I blocked it out or something, but I distinctly remember him saying, "I'm so disappointed in you."
Yeah.
And that's probably why I have trouble dealing with disappointment, and have had to work around that and facing people afterwards.
Yeah. So the psychologist that you saw, or the person that you saw on post, was she in a uniform, or was she a contractor?
No, she was a civilian doctor.
Okay, so she contracted on post. And do you know what her licensing credentials were? Was she like a social worker or
No,
a counselor?
she's a doctor
Okay.
of psychiatry.
Psychiatry?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good to know. So we try. I think people have different experiences when they're working with civilian doctors on post, civilian doctors off post, and then uniformed doctors are bound by some different regulations. So,
which is why I was glad to see that she wasn't in uniform.
yeah. So did that have an impact on how you perceived her?
Probably.
Do you feel like if she had been in uniform that you would have disclosed to her?
I know it would have been much more uncomfortable from the start of the conversation. I don't know if I would have been able to not disclose, but I probably would have tried harder.
Yeah. there's anything else I wanted to ask you about that. If I do, I'll come back to it. Okay, so when you were deciding to see somebody initially, you decided to go see somebody off post. What sort of things were you thinking about in making the decision on who you would see? So, someone off post versus on post, and then the particular provider that you chose.
That decision was based on forum discussions with other trans-military service members, and that the safest way would be to do it off post and with as little paperwork as possible.
Yeah.
That way, there wouldn't be any issue with them, with the military knowing about it, because just seeing a doctor without discussing it with your primary care provider is against regulations.
Yeah.
So every time I see her, I'm technically breaking the military's rules.
Yeah. But you felt like that was safer than seeing somebody on post.
The way that they would legally be bound to report it, yes.
So,
Now, whether they would actually report it has varied by from case to case. I know a lot of people online who have disclosed to on-post personnel haven't had anything, but then there's been people who have, and so it was better to just not have them in the loop at all.
You have to worry about it. And then why that particular provider? Was she somebody who specialized in trans issues?
It was a recommendation from someone else on the forum who was seeing her.
Okay. So you had a little bit of
Mhm.
of information. And did you use insurance? Did you pay out of pocket?
I pay out of pocket.
Does she work on a sliding scale for you, or do you pay the regular fee?
I have no idea what her regular fee is. I pay her $55 a visit.
Yeah, that's a sliding scale. Usually most psychiatrists will charge you like around 120, 130 bucks. So let's see. Have you sought any medical treatment?
I want to. Really, really want to. In fact, there is a local doctor, an endocrinologist, that I'd planned to call this week, but I've been too busy at work, and by the time I get off work, his office is closed, so I have to call sometime while I'm at work, and I would like to at least start with a T blocker. I think I've got too much time to start on estrogen,
Yeah.
but I'd like to do just that much. Before, when I was working at the school, I self-medicated for a couple months and convinced myself that it probably wasn't worth the health risks, and so I stopped. But I did it long enough to realize that I'm not fully in touch with my emotions. They're like, I don't feel. I felt them stronger when I was on the hormones, and so I know what I'm missing.
Yeah. And so it felt like. So what was that experience of being able to be in touch with your emotions?
That was a really good 2 months. And another reason I had to stop is because I had a few of my kindergartners say, "You need to wear a bra." It's like, shh, go play. No one heard that. Like, maybe this isn't the safest thing for me to be doing. And so I talked with my psychiatrist, and she's ready to write whatever the doctor needs.
So you're hoping to do that sometime soon.
Hopefully I can get a hold of him next week and find out.
Great. Congrats.
Not what I want to do, but it's the closest I think I can safely do.
Yeah. At least the step that you can take right now.
And another step I'm taking is hair removal. Started that.
I hear that's painful.
It is. My psychiatrist actually recommended a place up in about an hour and a half north of us. And I don't know if I want to drive that far, but the radio station I listened to over the holidays announced that place was having a buy one get two free.
Ooh.
And that's too good to pass up.
Yeah.
So I'm doing full face, chest, and bikini. And the chin was by far the worst.
Wow. Yeah, I would do not envy anybody that process.
Did it with no topical anesthetic, and okay, I can sit through that, but it's not pleasant. So I think next time we'll go with the topical anesthetic, which reminds me I need to call them and put in the prescription.
So, let's see. What does it mean? What does being a service member mean to you?
When I first joined, it was a means to an end. A way to get my life back on track. Told you I had attended some college and wasn't prepared. What I didn't say was because of my academics, I actually had a full ride and blew that. So the Army offering to help me repair that mistake was one of the reasons. And after joining and serving, I felt that I was a good fit for the military. I would never have thought that before joining. And I enjoyed what I did. I enjoyed the belief that what I was doing was contributing to something bigger than myself. Working in a game store, yeah, you might be able to find something for somebody who's looking for it, but in the military, you know you're making a difference. When we deployed, my platoon acted as the communications node for a quarter of the country we were in.
Wow.
If we dropped the ball, a quarter of that country no longer had their primary means of communication. Knowing that what I did mattered every day, that is what decided me that I could do this as a career. And giving that up, signing that statement, was probably the toughest decision I've ever made.
So when you did decide to sign the statement, was that mostly about recruiting, or did transition factor into that at all?
Oh, it was definitely a combination of the both. Like I said, I'd already come out to my wife and explained that I couldn't do this anymore, I needed to. And I had been looking into how to do that while in the military and what my path would be and how to, could I go, could I do it while I was in, did I need to get out? And then this came down and said, look, you have to spend 15 months doing this and doing it basically in your own personal hell. And I can't give you 3 months of that, and I don't regret saying no to Recruiter, especially because I found out recently that a lot of the policies that had gone into effect to make recruiting better, like in 2007 or 8, they had like 3 or 4 suicides in recruiters because of the policies of personal responsibility. Like, you have to recruit X number of people or you get a bad report and this, that, and the other. And, you know, people are killing themselves with the pressure they're put under and working like 18-hour days.
Wow.
And they changed that and made it a battalion responsibility. The battalion's responsible for recruiting this much. You will only work 9 to 5. You will have weekends off. And apparently this last year they have gone back to personal responsibility again. So I'm like, well, I'm glad I dodged that bullet.
For sure.
So, yeah, I was already looking at the decision of how to deal with transition, and that just basically forced me to decide then and there. Like, I probably still wouldn't have decided one or the other if that hadn't come up.
Do you feel like the pressure of transitioning while you're still in has impacted you in terms of your mental health and your performance?
My performance, no. Normally I consider it a curse, but in this particular aspect it's been a blessing. I can't multitask for crap.
Yeah.
When I'm working on something, that is the only thing I'm working on. So when I'm at work, it is...
You're in your zone.
That's not even something I'm really concerned about. I'm all on whatever the current project is. It's been after work that has been the issue, and where I've had trouble. Up until meeting the family that's on post, weekends were terrible. Like, there's just too much free time. You know, all week I looked forward to the weekend, like, oh God, I get to spend time out of the stupid office, and then the weekend comes around, I'm like, I just want to sleep. I just want to hide from the world and sleep.
How did you cope with that?
Sleeping, mostly. I've always had very active dreams, and I'm usually myself in my dreams, so they've been an escape mechanism for as long as I can remember. Like, when I couldn't deal with the situation, I just went to sleep. I didn't. Some people did drugs or alcohol or other things, and I just slept. And it's still my escape mechanism, but I've got enough support now that it's the amount of time I feel like evading the world has gone down considerably.
Yeah. So, like, having that support has been a real help.
Mm-hmm. Having places where I can be me has done so much for my mental health. I hadn't really realized that until this month. In December, we were pretty busy doing things, and when we weren't busy, my roommates had people over a lot, and then we went on holidays, and my grandmother was in the hospital because they found out she had 6 arteries completely closed, or at least 70% or more closed, and so she had 5 bypasses the day after Christmas. And so I got back to work in January, and like the first week, 2 out of the first 4 days, I left work crying my eyes out, and I couldn't figure out why. So that Thursday I called my friend on base, and like, look, I need to come over. And being able to come over is like a weight off my shoulder, and